in the heart of Lagos, where the streets never sleep and the horns of Danfo buses mix with the rhythm of ambition, there lived a man named Mr. Nwaosu, a man so rich that even his shadow smelled of money. He owned plazas in Ikja, fuel stations in Serula, and houses in Lekki. His cars lined up like a king's parade, sleek machines that gleamed under the Lagos sun, but among all his possessions, none shone brighter than his pride. People said Ekin's heart was carved from stone, not because he was brave, but because he felt nothing for anyone but himself. When neighbors came to him for help, he would laugh and say, "I worked for my wealth, let them go and work for theirs." Widows who begged for school fees were turned away. Youth who sought jobs at his company were mocked and dismissed. Even his younger brother, Chima, who lost his business in a fire, came to him one evening, weary, broken, and desperate. "Brother," Chima said softly, "just a loan to start again, I will repay." But Ekin looked at him with cold eyes. "You're a grown man, go and fend for yourself. I can't carry another person's burden." Chima left his mansion with tears in his eyes, whispering, "Money has made your heart hard." That night Lagos rain poured without mercy. The thunder rolled like angry drums and lightning split the skies. Yet inside his mansion, Ekin sat comfortably, sipping wine and counting his earnings. Outside, an old beggar woman stood by his gate, soaked to the bone. Her wrapper clung to her body and her voice trembled as she called, "Please help me with a place to rest till the rain stops." The gateman hesitated. "Madam, this is not a shelter. Please move away before Ogre comes out." But before the guard could finish, Ekin himself appeared at the doorway. "What is this nonsense?" he barked. "Do I look like a caretaker for beggars? Remove her from here." The old woman raised her eyes that carried ancient wisdom and quiet fury. She said calmly, "A man who shuts his gate against the poor shuts heaven's gate against himself." Ekin laughed harshly. "Heaven can stay shut for all I care, I have all I need here." The woman nodded slowly. "So be it," she whispered, her voice trembling with something beyond age. "From this night your heart will mirror your soul, hard as stone, cold as greed." Before Ekin could reply, a strange gust of wind swept across his compound. The rain suddenly stopped. The woman was gone, vanished into thin air. He shook his head, muttering, "Old fools and their curses," and went back inside. But at midnight, Ekin woke with a sharp pain in his chest, like 1,000 needles pressing inward. He gasped for breath, clutching his shirt. His heart thumped once, twice, and then he felt it, a heavy stillness as though his heart had turned to iron. Panicked, he called his private doctor, who rushed in from Ikoyi. After several tests, the doctor frowned. "Sir, your heart, it's beating, but it sounds strange. It feels unusually stiff." "Are you saying I'm dying?" Ekin shouted. "No, sir," the doctor replied uneasily, "but it's not normal. Your heart feels," he paused, searching for words, "like stone." Ekin's eyes widened. The words of the beggar echoed in his mind. "Your heart will mirror your soul, hard as stone." He laughed nervously. "Nonsense, just nonsense." But that night, as he lay awake, he realized something terrifying he could no longer feel. No fear, no joy, no guilt, nothing. He was alive but empty. Days turned into weeks, and people began to notice that Ekin had grown even colder. When his driver's child fell sick, he refused to give time off. When a tenant begged for rent extension, he evicted her. The more heartless he became, the heavier his chest felt. And then came the first sign, the mirror. One morning, as he stood before his dressing mirror, adjusting his gold wristwatch, he noticed something strange. His reflection didn't blink. His eyes in the mirror were grey, lifeless and cold, and when he touched his chest, he felt something solid like rock beneath his skin. His heart was no longer flesh. That was the night he knew the curse was real. Soft drum rhythm fades in, storyteller pauses. They say in Lagos that when a man becomes too proud, even the spirits of the city take notice, and for Ekin, the spirits had begun their work. Lagos moved on as it always did, fast, loud and merciless, but inside Mr. Ekin's mansion, time had started to crawl. Ever since that strange night, he no longer felt human. His heart beat, yes, but not like before. It thudded slowly, like someone striking a drum made of rock. He no longer dreamed, no longer laughed, and food had lost its taste. He began to notice odd things around him, small, chilling signs that the world was turning against him. The flowers in his compound stopped blooming. His dogs stopped wagging their tails whenever he appeared. And his workers, once eager to please, now spoke in whispers whenever his footsteps echoed down the marble floor. The warmth of life around him was fading, just as the warmth within him had died. One hot afternoon, his driver, Musa, came rushing into the sitting room. "Sir, there is fire at the market. It's spreading fast, sir. Many people are trapped." Ekin looked up from his drink. "And how is that my concern?" "Sir," Musa said nervously, "the market is near your warehouse. If you send your trucks, we can help move people to safety." But Ekin sipped his drink calmly. "Let the government handle it. I'm not a charity organization." That evening he watched the news. The camera showed the burning market, screaming mothers, crying children, and brave men pulling others from the flames. Among them was a young man wearing a torn shirt, risking his life to save strangers. His name flashed across the TV screen, Nwaosu, his younger brother. Ekin's chest tightened. He had not seen Chima in months, the last time he'd refused him help, and now the same brother he abandoned was risking his life to save others. For a brief second, Ekin wanted to feel pride, or even guilt, but nothing came. His stone heart remained still. He turned off the TV and muttered, "Fools risk their lives for people who can't repay them." But that night he couldn't sleep. The image of his brother dragging people from the flames played again and again in his mind. And somewhere deep inside him, beneath the layers of stone, a faint ache began to stir, something he had not felt in a long time. Regret. The next morning he walked to his balcony. The air was heavy and grey, as though Lagos itself had stopped breathing. He looked down at his estate, once beautiful, now dull. The grass was dry, the fountains no longer gushed, the fish in his pond floated lifelessly on the surface. Everything around him was dying. He called his gardener in anger. "What is wrong with this place? Why does everything look dead?" The old gardener bowed his head. "Sir, maybe the earth is rejecting your spirit." Ekin frowned. "What nonsense are you speaking?" But before the gardener could explain, he collapsed, just like that, right before Ekin's eyes. "Heart attack." The man's eyes rolled back and his body went still. For a moment Ekin stood frozen. His heart pounded once and then again, slow, cold, like thunder rolling in a hollow cave. He wanted to call for help, but he didn't. Instead, he whispered, "People die every day." He walked away, leaving the dead man lying on the grass. But as he entered his house, the mirrors began to shake. All at once the glass cracked, forming a jagged pattern shaped like a heart. And then he heard it, a voice. Soft, feminine, ancient. "Ekin, you were warned." He spun around. The air shimmered, and standing at the end of the hallway was the old beggar woman. She was not wet anymore. Her eyes glowed like burning coal. Her voice filled the entire house. "You shut your heart against mercy, so mercy has shut itself from you. The city feels your curse. The earth rejects your presence." "Leave me alone," Ekin shouted, trembling. "I have done nothing wrong." The woman raised her staff, and suddenly he saw visions flash before his eyes. Hungry children he'd ignored, workers he'd insulted, widows he'd mocked, his brother he'd abandoned. Each face appeared and vanished like smoke. "You call yourself rich," the woman said, "but your soul is poorer than dust." Then she pointed the staff at his chest. "Until you learn compassion, your heart will remain stone. Every tear you caused will harden it further." Ekin fell to his knees, panting. "Who are you?" "I am the spirit of humanity," she said. "I dwell in every act of kindness you've destroyed." And just as suddenly as she came, she vanished, leaving only silence, and the sound of his slow, heavy heartbeat. Days passed, and Ekin's world grew colder. He tried to go about his business, but everywhere he turned, misfortune followed. One of his buildings collapsed during renovation. His bank accounts were hacked by unknown hands. His business partners began to withdraw their deals. It was as if fate itself had declared war on him. He went to the hospital, hoping science could explain his strange condition. The doctor examined him, then shook his head. Mr. Ekin, your heart tissue has calcified. It's turning to stone. We've never seen anything like it. Can't you fix it? Ekin asked. There's no medicine for this, sir, the doctor said. Only a miracle. A miracle, the word rang in his ears. But where would he find one, when he had spent his entire life mocking those who believed in miracles? He returned home that night and stood before his mirror once again. His reflection no longer looked human. His skin had turned greyish, his eyes empty. He whispered to himself, "What have I become?" And from somewhere deep within his empty mansion, a voice echoed softly, "You have become what you always were." And so the rich man of Lagos began to feel the weight of his curse, but the lesson was only beginning. The stone heart within him was not done teaching. When life humbles a proud man, it often sends him back to the very people he once despised. Ekin had nowhere left to go. His money was gone, his cars auctioned, his mansion reclaimed by the bank. Only one place remained, his brother's small apartment in Agegunnel. The same brother he once mocked. It took him 2 days to gather the courage. When he finally arrived, barefoot and broken, the neighbours stared in disbelief. "Is that not the great Mr. Ekin?" one woman whispered. "See how the mighty have fallen." He knocked weakly on the door. Chima opened it and froze. "Brother," Ekin said softly, his voice cracking. Chima's eyes filled with shock. The man before him was not the arrogant figure he remembered, but a shadow, thin, grey-skinned, trembling. "What happened to you?" Chima asked, pulling him inside. Ekin sank into a chair and covered his face. "I lost everything. The curse is real, Chima." "What curse?" Chima asked. "The old woman," Ekin said, voice shaking. "She turned my heart to stone. I can't feel, can't love, can't live." For a moment silence filled the small room, then Chima sighed. "Maybe it's not a curse, maybe it's your punishment." Ekin's eyes welled with frozen tears. "I've wronged everyone, Chima, especially you, forgive me." Chima placed a hand on his shoulder. "Brother, I forgave you long ago, but forgiveness means nothing if you don't change." That night, Ekin slept on a mat for the first time in 20 years. No servants, no air conditioning, just the hum of the city outside and the beating of his stony heart within. But something strange happened. In the middle of the night, he woke up to the sound of a baby crying in the neighbor's room. His instinct was to cover his ears, but something inside him stirred, something warm. He stood up, went to the neighbor's door and found the mother panicking. The baby had a fever and she had no money for medicine. Without thinking, Ekin reached into his pocket. There was only one thing left, a small gold ring he had hidden from the bank officers. He took it off and pressed it into the woman's hand. "Sell it," he said. "Get medicine for your child." The woman's eyes widened. "God bless you, sir." For the first time since his curse began, Ekin felt something, a faint flutter in his chest. His heart, it moved. He touched his chest and whispered, "It's beating again." A tear rolled down his cheek, warm this time, not cold. He didn't know it yet, but the stone was beginning to crack. The next morning, Chima returned from the market and found his brother sweeping the front yard. "Ekin, you sweeping?" he asked, surprised. Ekin smiled weakly. "It feels right." Days turned into weeks. The man who once ruled over empires now helped street children find food. He carried water for widows. He repaired the broken fence of a neighbor for free. The people began to whisper again, not in fear this time, but in awe. They said, "Even a stone can soften when it meets compassion." One afternoon, as he helped an old man cross the road, a bright light flashed before his eyes. Time seemed to stop. The same old woman appeared, this time dressed in white, glowing like the morning sun. She smiled gently. "You have learned, Ekin, not through words but through pain." He fell to his knees. "Please, Mother Spirit, forgive me." She raised her staff. "Your heart is no longer of stone, it is flesh again. But remember, if you harden it once more, there will be no second mercy." She touched his chest lightly. A warm glow spread through his body, and he gasped as he felt his heart beat strong and alive for the first time in months. When he looked up, the woman was gone. "Don't forget to subscribe, thank you."